You might not like it, but this is what the peak male athletic form looks like, and there ain't a fucking thing you can do about it.
All right, acrobatics, athletics. What do we want to know in Oblivion? How do I level acrobatics? How do I jump fast? We can do this. All right, before we dive into all the specifics about acrobatics and athletics, I quickly want to shill for the Jonestone and the Steedstone in Oblivion. So the Jonestone, you need a renown of 10, which means you need a combined infamy and fame of 10. It's right north of Bleak Flats Cave where you save Earth Ore, and that unlocks all of these abilities for spellmaking. It unlocks invisibility, which normally requires 50 illusion. It unlocks Fortify skill, which is incredibly useful. And just the effect itself, once a day you can use this power. Very useful, fortifying your acrobatics by 30, fortifying your athletics by 30, your sneak, and going invisible. Next is the Steedstone. There's no requirements. You can just go get it at the very first thing of the game. But you can only have one Birthsign stone at a time. Now, they're all greater powers that you can use once a day. This fortifies your speed attribute, so it unlocks Fortify attribute at spellmaking and enchanting altars, and Fortify skill, which is very, very useful. The moment you join the Mages Guild or you use that stupid tower, you want to have Fortify skill. It's really helpful. Here is a quick clip of me using the Jonestone on my mage character. This is in the Mehrunes Razor DLC. I couldn't make this jump without it. As you see, I just barely made it, and I was lost. I was stuck. I couldn't actually get to where I needed to go, and so just using the Jonestone saved me a bunch of time running around lost like an idiot. Back to the spreadsheet. Now, it's important to know how experience works in Oblivion, and I think a lot of people do already know. I've talked about this in a lot of my videos, but basically for each jump, you get 0.3 experience, and if you fall, if you take any amount of fall damage, whether it's 1 damage or all your health, it's worth 10 jumps worth of experience, or 3 experience. So this is the skill experience required to get from like level 5 to level 6 is 2.89 experience. So it's this many jumps. Obviously it'd be 1/10 of that for fall damage, so a single fall damage will gain you a level from level 5 to 6. Now this is if you specialize in stealth, this is if you choose acrobatics as a major, and this is how many jumps you need if you do both. So if we scroll to the bottom here, at level 99, if it's a minor, it takes almost 850 jumps to gain a single level. And even when you've spec'd into it, it's still over 382 jumps. So this starts to level very, very, very slowly at the end. So either you're going to be grinding a lot or using a trainer, or I think better than that is using ways to fortify your acrobatics. And through magic or saving the boots of Spring-Heeled Jack, when you do the Thieves Guild, you fall to get the Elder Scroll. If you unequip the boots, you don't need to be wearing them to stay alive as long as you have a high health pool, because the way fall damage works is it's actually just a set number and it's multiplied by this percentage here. So that goes down based on your skill. Now, if you only have 5 skill, this is how much, so at 0 skill I should start at, you take 125% of regular fall damage. When you have 100 acrobatics, it only goes down to 124% of regular fall damage. So it's basically not different at all. I use the unofficial Oblivion patch, which uses this formula, which is basically linear. It starts at 125% fall damage, and at 255 skill, you no longer take any fall damage. So the unofficial patch, I think, makes a lot more sense to me. You still take a solid amount of fall damage at 100 skill. It's only when you get to those crazy numbers that you don't take fall damage. I think they just have too many zeros here in the regular game formula. It's like somebody made a mistake. The last thing I want to say about acrobatics is if you use magic to fortify it past 500, it starts to cause your screen to shake a bit. And then when you get to about 700 or higher, it starts to cause really weird glitches. Your screen will shake and it'll rocket you somewhere. In this video, I got into like the arena spectators and I was stuck here. So just lots of weird things can happen. So it can be worth your time to skip an Oblivion gate sometimes, but just make sure you save beforehand if you're going to fortify your acrobatics really high, because it can lead you into some strange situations. Is 130. Then we have athletics. That's the skill. That starts at 5 and then it's increased. If I pick it as a major skill, it's 25. And this changes your run speed. Now your run speed is your base walk speed times 3. So at 0 athletics, it's times 3 plus 1% of your athletics. So at 100% athletics, well, 3 plus 100% of, or sorry, plus 1% of 100 is 4. So that's how athletics, it changes that multiplier of your speed. Here we have our race modifiers. Altmer are much faster than Bosmer. It's just the way it is. And lastly, there's encumbrance. At worst, at 150 equipped weight, you get a 0.6 multiplier. You can feather that away. I'm not going to talk too much about encumbrance. If you're really curious about the movement speed formula, I have a movement speed deep dive where I go more into that. This is about athletics and how that works. Now, I actually almost always choose athletics as a major skill, and a lot of people don't. But if you start, let's say I am playing one of these races with a 1 modifier, so I have 323 run speed in the game. If I just simply choosing athletics as a major skill, well, I will start at 344. Now, it's only about a 6.5% increase. It's not massive, but as a major skill that I don't really care too much about, it's usually my 7th skill that I'm not going to plan on leveling a bunch, it actually does give you a passive bonus. If you pick blunt or speechcraft and you're not going to use those skills, often people pick majors that are very... The last thing I want to say about the movement speed formula is that speed increases your movement more than athletics, so the speed attribute. So if you're casting Fortify attribute or Fortify skill, they both have the same base cost, you should be fortifying your speed. The one exception to this is if you have more than 75 speed than you do athletics. So if your speed is more than 75 points higher. So for example, if I have 75 speed and 0 athletics, 1 more speed will bring me from 360 to 361.2, so it's a 1.2 increase. And going from 0 to 1 athletics is also a 1.2 increase. However, because it's a multiplier, if I have a whole bunch of speed, gaining 1 athletics is a pretty big boost. That's like 2. It's easier to see if I say 10. So I went from 702 to 725. However, gaining 10 more speed is 702 to 714. So it's 11 less movement there, gaining the 10 attribute to speed. So as long as your speed isn't more than, so if you're at this exact spot, 75 speed more than athletics, they're identical in value, but chances are your athletics is going to be, your numbers will be more like this. They're going to be closer to one another. You never know. Next, we got to talk about the experience. So this is a whole lot in this table, and it's kind of too much for my brain to handle. It's like, I don't want to look at all this. What you need to know about athletics is that it levels incredibly slowly. If you pick it as a major and you spec into combat, it will still take this many minutes per skill point of running. So if you notice, this last skill point takes over an hour of running to gain 1 skill point at the end. So by the end, it is getting completely ridiculous. Now, again, though, I do want to show some integrals because it kind of highlights the value of that, choosing it as a major skill. So first, you start at 25 instead of 5, but this is also, these are the formulas for the difference. So for example, if I am at, what do we want to pick? 50 athletics, I will be at 37 athletics if I didn't choose it as a major skill. So that might have not made a ton of sense, but this blue graph is if I chose athletics as a major skill. So I can go to any point on this graph. So if we want to go to 20,000 for my Y value, that means I've been running for 20,000 seconds. That's going to put me at almost 44 athletics. If I didn't choose it as a major, I would only have 32 athletics. So you can kind of compare, how different is my speed going to be? By the end, when you get to about 100, I got to zoom way out. When you get to about 100, the difference is about 20 points. You'll get to 100 athletics. If you chose it as a major, you'd only be at about 80 if you didn't choose it as a major. Not the most important, but it does level faster. And so if you really value player movement, it might be worth your time to choose it as a major skill as well. The last thing I haven't talked about is the perks. If you're watching my videos, hopefully you've played this game before. There's a lot to each of these perks, but they're pretty basic. When you get to 25, you can attack in the air. When you get to 50, you can do this dodge roll. You just hold block and jump in a direction. It actually moves really fast. It's fun. You can use it when you're traveling too. It makes you move faster. An expert, instead of using 30 fatigue per jump, only loses 15. And a master, you can just spam the spacebar and bounce off the water. If you have really good timing, you don't need to spam the spacebar. I don't have really good timing, so I do need to spam the spacebar. Athletics perks are way less interesting, I think. It's just, so when you're standing still, you regenerate 10 fatigue per second. If you're a novice in athletics, you only regenerate 2. Apprentice 4, 6, 8, so on, so on. That's another reason I like to choose Athletics is a major skill. You start with twice as much fatigue regen while running. Now, I want you to keep in mind all fatigue does is melee damage. It's not like Morrowind where it changes everything. Fatigue, if you have 0 fatigue, you do half damage. If you have full fatigue, you do normal damage. If you're relying on poisons or your weapon enchantments or magic, fatigue is kind of worthless. So if you want to be a warrior, I highly, highly recommend choosing athletics as a major skill because getting this up quickly makes a big difference. Now, you can always restore your fatigue with potions or spells, but it just adds a little bit and it doesn't cost you a lot. And because this skill never gets to 100, I mean, it does at some point, but it takes so long to get there, it stops you from over leveling yourself too quickly. And I know people really value their ability to efficiently level. And if you are using athletics as a major skill, it does just level up randomly. So you're not going to be keeping track. If you've watched my channel at all, you know how I feel about that. I think that's a massive waste of time. So if you've ever watched any of my streams or playthroughs, I pretty much always choose athletics as a major skill. Just, it's fun. So I do recommend. Oh, I almost forgot. What it should be like in future games, these skills. Now, I think they should come back. I think they're very fun. The Elder Scrolls 6 really should have these things. Obviously, they're not going to listen to me, but whatever, I'm going to talk about it anyway. This could look like faster sprinting, less stamina usage, jumping and attacking while sprinting. A double jump, I think, would be such a cool concept. Obviously, you could jump higher, the basic stuff. Fall damage reduction, fall damage immunity at very high levels. And even, I know I talked bad about the game, but when I watched Avowed footage, I thought that the quick dodge that they do and the climbing and the verticality in the game was great. And I do hope that the Elder Scrolls 6 can take some of that and put it in their game. All right, that's all I got. Thanks for watching.